This is chapter 19, the boulder. We're on part 2 where the boulder comes in. I'd gone to my last year at school in smart clothes made by my mam on a sewing machine like the one behind me. But Mr. Bantam wasn't impressed. And then one day I had some very bad news. All the cleverest people are born in April, he said. And just by saying it, he made it seem true. Of course, you'll have guessed he was born in April. And of course, you may remember, I was born in May. So that counted him in amongst all the cleverest people and me out because I wasn't born in April. I just had to try even harder, that meant. I just had to pass that exam. I couldn't bear to hear Posty coming down our lane with bad news. She didn't pass, she didn't pass. If only I was born in April, then Mr. Bantam would come riding down on his bike, shouting, "Cock-a-doodle-doo, wake up everybody, she's passed, she's passed." I could imagine him laughing and flapping his arms in the air as he freewheeled down our lane, as if he was flying. And all our farm workers would come out, and Grandma and everybody next door would shout, "Hooray!" And they would all come and be pleased with me, running from the stockyard and running from the house, saying I had done well. Auntie Vera would throw her arms round me, and Mam would be so pleased she would bring Mr. Bantam in for a cup of tea, and he would be able to sit in Dad's horsehair chair. She's passed, hooray! But I was not at that stage yet, and I was not born in April with all the other clever people, and it was a great worry for me. At least at the weekends I had some free time, and I didn't have to worry about my scholarship, and I could do what I wanted and play with Gwendy, Terry and Stewie and little Bonnie. We often went out to the churchyard. And one day, when we got to Gum, Reverend Robinson was there. And he wasn't looking to heaven this time. He was looking down on the ground. When we went up to him, as near as we dared, he didn't seem to notice us. "There's been a robbery," he said. And that was unusual, because he was not using his big preaching voice. "Gum church candlesticks have been stolen," he told the ground. And he drifted off, deep in thought, still looking down. We were used to him looking up to heaven, but this time I thought maybe he was looking at hell. Maybe he wanted the robbers who stole his candlesticks to go to hell and stay there. Anyway, we soon lost interest because it was very boring with Reverend Robinson. And after all, it was not a school day, and we didn't have to be with him. So we ran off to our boulder, looking for some more fun. There was this massive boulder in our field, right next to Gum Church. It had been there, humped on the grass, ever since I could remember. Auntie Vera said it had been there since time began, and that there was a tunnel underneath that led to Gum Church. Why it was there was a mystery, and nobody knew anything much about it. But, she said, there were dead men in the tunnel under the boulder. So there we were, with our boulder in our field, and dead men under it. Then Terry had a plan to lift the boulder, and to see the men who would now be skeletons and would need a decent burial. We all thought this was a brilliant idea, so we rolled our sleeves up and grabbed the boulder as best we could, and we heaved and strained, but it was no good. The boulder would not move. Then Terry had another brilliant idea, and we all ran home, and we searched for sticks and iron bars, which were easy to find on our farm. And then, holding them, we ran back up the lane and onto the main road and to a massive boulder. And then we pushed the boulders and bars under it as far as it would go, and then pressed to lever. But the stone would not move. Then Terry had an even better idea. We had to get fit. We weren't strong enough, he said. I had to try the hardest because I was the smallest, apart from Bonnie, who wasn't going to do any lifting. Then Stewie had to do his bit, and then Terry had a lot more to do because he was the biggest and the strongest anyway. Terry said that running would make us stronger, so every morning we set off. Up and down our lane we ran, not walking like we usually did. Gwendy and Terry had to run up and down twice, while I ran once. Then we had to jump up and down on the spot. When we got home at night, it was biceps training, and Terry got some stones to train our biceps to be very strong indeed. Then he said we were ready after a few days. We got into the field and we tried again. We should be strong enough this time. 1, 2, 3. Heave, shouted Terry. And we heaved and heaved, and our muscles were tight, but we didn't move the boulder. We tried again and again, but no, there was still no movement. Our boulder would not budge. I was so disappointed, and I thought I would go another day and have another try. But Terry had got fed up, and he had another idea. He wanted to enter the running races at our school. And he kept on practicing running and running and running. And do you know, when the time came, he ran like the wind and he won best runner in his school. Then in a flash, I had a brainwave. My dad might help me. He was big and strong and fit. I saw his muscles every day under his rolled up sleeves. I went to ask him. No, I can't. I'm too busy. Got to get all the mucking out done today, and then I have to feed up, and then it's milking time, he said, rushing off with his muck fork. So there we were. There was nothing for it. I just had to go back and try again on my own. I took my coat off, flexed my muscles like Terry had shown me, and then, there and then, I bent down to lift. 1, 2, 3, heave! But of course, however hard I tried, it would not budge. I couldn't move that stone at all. I sat down to get my breath back with my back to the stone, and then I put my hands dangling down onto the cold side. And then I felt a bit of bone. I thought that it was a bit twiggy, like a twiggy bony hand that got entangled in my fingers. That must be the skeleton that I'd touched. Ah! I thought I'd better go. I stumbled up and ran off as fast as my legs could carry me through our field, onto our main road and down our lane. I was not as fast as I should be, like Terry. I was not as fast as the wind, but I did my best. I ran on and on until my lungs were fit to burst, and then my breath started to come in great stabbing breaths.